Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Kate. I'm so happy today to have as my guest Dr. Nina Smart, academic, advocate, friend, and a force for good in the world. Welcome, Nina.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm so happy that you are here. It's a real thrill and a delight. And because of the wonders of our virtual world, you are with us from Suceava, Romania. Is that right? How did I say the
Romania,
Suceava.
yes.
And if
The
we can locate
northeastern
you.
part, freezing.
Freezing. How cold is cold there?
It was about -11 Celsius. I mean, there's snow and it's very different than the sunshine I miss so much.
I'm
next
sure.
To the St. James.
But we are actually, just to further locate you, we are in the room in which you grew up. Isn't that right? Because you were born in Romania.
Yes, I had to return emergency in mid-December, and I am taking care of some legal matters, and it's actually every challenge comes with a lot of blessings. So I'm very grateful to reconnect with my family here and to be in my very room where I learned how to write and where all my dreams started. And this is wonderful.
That's amazing. I love those sort of full circle moments in life. Do you know when you go back to a place where things began, and it's a way of also taking stock of all the changes that have happened since. And a lot's happened in your life, hasn't it?
Yes, I've just kind of been on so many continents, but I must say that in the past 37 years since I left Romania, if I was asked, where is my most favorite place? I said, this room. So it makes me really happy to be here. And yes, it was the death of a dear person that brought me here, but I'm very grateful and I'm very excited. And it did make me come face to face with the many dreams that I have set out to explore, and truly count my blessings and the grace of God of being allowed to be an instrument for those things that needed attention.
And we're going to talk about so many of those, but I think it's kind of fun to just continue to locate you for a minute in this time and space. So So just for fun, tell me about a delicious Romanian meal that you've enjoyed since you've been home, because no food tastes as good as a food from home, right?
That is true. So, as you might imagine, my friends and family, they have been very excited to feed me, especially I had to be in
Mm-hmm.
quarantine for some time with COVID
Mm-hmm.
restrictions. And our most traditional Romanian food is stuffed cabbage rolls. In Romanians,
Mm-hmm.
they are called sarmale with
Mm-hmm.
polenta, which is
Mm.
traditionally called mămăligă. And of
Mm.
course, it's sour cream, and it just smells
Mm.
really great. And I'm very
Mm.
excited and happy to be able to share in that part of life. And of course, I
Yes.
do miss the African food. It's been
Yes.
really hard. And there is
I
no
know. No,
African store in Romania so far. And
you're just
but
cut off. You're cut off from a whole culinary world. Well, before we get into your whole life and what happened when you left Romania, I just want to ask you in passing. I believe you're also doing some refugee work while you're there. Can you just give us a brief sketch of what is the refugee situation in Romania right now?
it is I was very surprised to find out that just about half an hour away from where I am at this very moment, in the northeastern part of Bukovina, which is very close to the former USSR, now Ukraine, we have a refugee center, one of the five centers that are situated all over Romania, because we are at the border with Ukraine. So it is at the end of the European Union. The
Mm-hmm.
migrants are seeking political asylum, and given how freezing cold this place is, I was really shocked to hear that we have refugees from Haiti, refugees from
Oh,
Somalia, Ethiopia, Angola, Eritrea, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan that crossed on foot. And they
oh.
ended up in different centers, and this one being the most east center of the country. And this is where I am, northeast. And I was very fortunate to be able to interact with some of the refugees during my first visit to the center. Of course, as I was trying to see how I can volunteer and
Mm,
try to be of some use while I'm still,
mm,
I have to continue to be in Romania for some urgent matters. And it was really unbelievable how I was not granted access into the center because it's very restricted. But visiting, I met some of the Haitian refugees, and they were limping. And so
mm,
I asked in my broken English, similar to the Sierra Leonean Creole, what
mm,
happened, why they were
mm,
hurt. And they spoke to me, they responded. At that time, I was with the director of the center, and it seemed like for the past 3 months, since they've ended up in this refugee center that houses over about 100 people from the countries I mentioned, many of them are women and children. They refused to talk to anyone. So the fact that these 6 men felt comfortable enough to speak
mm,
with me was a big, amazing breakthrough. So I was
mm,
invited by the director of the center to come back and see if I can translate. And it was a
mhm,
very awkward situation because, as you might remember from my book, I understand Creole, which is the language spoken by most Sierra Leoneans, but I don't
mhm,
speak it. So, in a
mm.
way, it worked out perfect because I was able to understand what they told me, and then I translated into Romanian. Of
To
course, that really
Romanian,
brought
yeah,
me, yes, because the Romanian authorities needed to understand their story. And it
yeah.
was a very heartfelt um, day when I happened to go there on the coldest day of the year. That was on the 11th of February. I will not forget that. It was minus 15 degrees Celsius. and it was really
Unbelievable.
freezing. But of course, they come from very hot climate, and
Yeah.
everyone has a story, and it's very difficult to hear some of the
Mm.
challenges. They've been separated for more than 2 years from their families. They were younger men, but how
Mm.
amazing! And I'm very grateful that I brought my African pendant
Beautiful
with the
necklace.
Sierra
Yeah.
Leone right here, and I think that this was part of the interaction that helped them want to talk to me, because they
Yeah.
felt that there was someone in this freezing Romanian weather that first has been to the parts of the world that they are familiar with, and
Hmm.
secondly understood what they talked about. So that's I shall keep you updated on what
That's
my next step shall
amazing.
be.
I didn't know that there were refugees from all those places in Romania. That's extraordinary.
Yes,
But it does
yes,
not
it is.
surprise me that even though you're there on for a family emergency, that you still find a way to make these amazing connections, because that's so much the way you live your life. So I want to share with other people this some of this amazing life of yours, and um, there's so many different places where we could start, but let's start in this room in which you are seated right now. How did you end up going from this room in Romania to West Africa, to Nigeria and Sierra Leone? How in the world did you span that difference? I think it was when you were a teenager.
Yes. I was born and raised in Suceava in Romania, which of course has been so close to my heart. And around the age of 11, I was told that my father, whom I knew, was not my biological father. I had the opportunity to meet my Sierra Leonean father, who at that time was a diplomat working for ECOWAS in Lagos, Nigeria. In 1983, Lagos was the capital of Nigeria. Through a series of legal matters, some of them which I have to actually resolve at this time, which is why I'm away from Los Angeles. It's amazing
Mhm.
how 35 years later we have to clear up life. I I ended up in Lagos. And without speaking any English, the only language I knew was Romanian. And I had a new family. So I went from my Romanian white family to my Sierra Leonean black family. But that was living in Lagos. I attended Queen's College. So I'm a QC girl and I'm very proud.
Very
And
famous
we
and
have,
wonderful secondary
yeah,
school in Lagos, yes.
yes, in Nigeria, one of the best in West Africa. And I had a very tumultuous start. I was very stubborn. I didn't want to learn the language. I didn't like the food. I almost died. Now I miss Nigerian food. I really want the eba and the rice and the palm oil. I have,
Mm.
yes, it's very hard. But
But
it
I
was
mean,
a
who could
difficult,
blame you? Nina, who could blame you? 11 or 12 years old, and you're taken to another country where you don't speak a word of the language. I mean, that
yes.
had to be completely overwhelming.
It was very difficult, and I felt very tricked. Uh,
Mm.
in uh, in retrospect, I am very grateful that my father took that decision. However, it was my Romanian family did not appreciate that. It was very
Mm.
challenging. But I do believe that in the bigger scheme of things, should I not have gone to school and boarding school for that matter, or Bassa
Right?
House in Queen's College, I would not have been able to understand and have the fantastic connections and friendships that I do have with many of my wonderful Nigerian girlfriends that continue to
Mm.
be some of the strongest bonds that I have while I live in Los Angeles and, of course, all over the
Mm.
world. And
Mm.
so it was challenging, it was
Mm.
difficult, it was also necessary. This is how I feel today. And as I mentioned, the effect of that journey manifests in the fact that I can walk into a refugee camp and people can relate to me, and I can perhaps help influence the decision that the Romanian government might make to allow them to obtain political asylum for themselves and their family. So it was hard and it was difficult. And yes, it was very different. Now I'm freezing. Back then, I was melting. I went from freezing Romania to hot Nigerian
Humid.
sun.
Yes, I
So
know.
it
What a
was,
shock. But
it was
isn't it
hard.
funny that it was so, it must have been all, I mean, it's hard to be a teenager anyway,
Yes.
anywhere, under any circumstances. It's the most challenging age, I think, because it's coming of age. And it's when you start to find out who you are and where and how do you belong in the world, and just all of that, about all of that sort of identity work that we do in those years anyway. And yours became you became, in a sense, a citizen of the world through your experience, a daughter of Africa, a citizen of the world. I mean, you are so many identities in one person.
And I
And
actually
we haven't even
embrace
talked
all
about
of them.
Sierra Leone yet. Yeah, and we haven't even
Yes.
talked about Sierra
But
Leone yet, because you went from Romania to Nigeria, right?
yes.
Then you went to
And
Sierra Leone.
I did eventually go to Sierra Leone, but every summer break from our school, we were visiting Sierra Leone. So we were very connected to the Sierra Leonean culture. However, I must mention, because
Yes.
as we know, in the US, I get asked all the time, "Oh, you have an accent. Where are you from?" So I say Romania. And then they look at me like, "No, it's not possible." And then I say, "My father was from Sierra Leone, but I learned English in Nigeria. So I speak Nigerian English with Romanian accent." And I love that because it's so very unique. And I tried to maintain my accent because of how I was very, it was very difficult to learn the language in a boarding school. But my teachers are some of my best friends today. But yes, so after the high school, we relocated to my father's assignment as the secretary of ECOWAS. He completed it, and he decided to run for politics in Sierra Leone. And that was in 1990, before the Civil War. And although I had won a scholarship to follow in his footsteps and come to attend medical school in Romania, in Bucharest, the capital, my father was very strict in wanting me to fully embrace and understand my African identity. And he was not flexible on that. And I was very stubborn. However, he won. So I moved and relocated to Sierra Leone, where I attended 1 year at convent, which is a high school in Freetown. And during that time, he was considering becoming a member of the parliament. And in order for him to be elected, there was this demand that his household and everyone in his household must, including me, which I looked very different, must respect tradition. And one of the traditions specific to my father's ethnic group, I want to specify that the cultural norms differ based on ethnicity in most West African countries, specifically in Sierra Leone. So my father is Limba Loko, and he was hoping to get the support of all the people in his area. And they weren't happy that he had what they called an opoto, which is a white child, which was me. I felt I was just me, but that is what the experience was. And because I was born and raised in Romania, and then I went to school in Nigeria, I was not part of what is highly venerated by the ethnic groups in Sierra Leone, which is the Bondo or Sande Secret Society for Women. It is one of the most powerful secret societies in Africa, in West Africa.
Mm.
But the Bondo women, they are very proud and they are very wonderful cultural practices that happen within the secret society. However, the ritual of initiation into the secret
Mm.
society, it includes the cutting of the female genitalia, which
Mm.
is internationally known as the practice of FGM, female genital mutilation.
Mm.
That is not necessarily the practice and the name that is given by the people practicing who take pride and they see it as a rite of passage,
Mm.
and it's practiced and embraced and protected based on culture, based on beliefs, based on social norms, tradition, and the
Mm.
pride of being and becoming a powerful and a loving African wife and eventually an African mother. So I, of course, didn't know any of this. And I didn't understand now the dialects like the Limba and the Loco and the Tsimni. My mommy,
Mm.
my stepmother in Sierra Leone, she was from the Tsimni tribe, which also practice, and they are also part of the secret society. In fact, she had a very high position in the secret society. And
Mm.
I didn't understand any of the things I'm explaining now. But
Mm.
there was a lot of tension, there was fear, there was secrecy, there was silence. Actually, that was the prevailing atmosphere that
Yeah.
scared me because I was already feeling saddened by the fact that my
Mm.
academic uh, trajectory had been halted and I had to be returned and repeat a class since I was doing so amazing and I had excellent grades in Nigeria. I wasn't happy and I was very arrogant, I must add, because I was only 19 and I knew it all. So, but
Of course.
I think that it was important that I wasn't silenced
Mm.
by the secrecy and by the fact that no one wanted to explain to me what happened. I kept asking questions, and eventually I was very fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to leave Sierra Leone.
Now, let me interrupt here. Let me interrupt here. Having read your book, which is
yes,
called, maybe you could hold it up for us. It's called Wildflower. And it's the most extraordinary book. The way that you're telling the story right now is so calm. But in your book, this section of your life reads like a thriller, second by second, moment by moment, because you come very close to having to go through that. Um, I believe it's an irreversible uh, procedure, right? And yet you were able to get out of the country.
yes, I was fortunate, and I must say that my story addresses the one day in my life, and that was the 14th of September, 1991, during which everything went wrong, so it can go right. And I say
That's
that
right.
because, as you said, it is like a thriller
It
and it was
is.
very
It's
scaring
very
and at the
stressful,
same time
actually.
exciting, but everything arranged itself, which only means that it was truly, um, I say that it was the hand of God that guided me, that gave me the strength and the courage because of the path that was imperative for me to follow should I be able to survive. And in fact, you might remember from the book, the minister of police, who happened to be my father's good friend and who caught me, as he was making his final decision, about half an hour before the KLM flight was about to take off, and that was going to be the end of my life, he said, "I'm going to let you go because you have a very big mission ahead of you." And his words, given that he was my father's friend from childhood, and I was a young, disobedient girl who attempted to escape and shame my father, those words stayed with me and they guided me. Apart from the fact that he was killed 2 weeks later when the rebels came into Freetown and the civil war started. So, in addition to the fact that I was able to escape a practice that was very challenging, and I invite everyone to please visit my website. I have an organization, and you will get details about this. It's called swfinternational.org. That's Servicing Wildflowers International. And I have some of the details because we want to tell the story and not go into the academic part. But
I've heard you speak at a number of events, and it's very fascinating and compelling. And what strikes me about the way that you talk about all of this now is you have this ability to speak with infinite respect about the traditions and their meaning and their value, and at the same time tell the story of how you were on a different path and how that path has helped you shine a light on culture and help people look at culture in new ways. Does that sound, oh, sorry about that. Does that sound correct?
Thank you so much. That just sounds so beautiful the way you said it. And that is exactly what I always pray for, to have the love and kindness and the understanding of honoring everyone who believes and practices and lives in Sierra Leone, since I work and I do everything I do is to shine a light and to empower the women, the girls, and children at the school that I'm helping fund. Is we have both boys and girls, more girls than boys, but it is so important to be of service, and hence the name of my organization, Servicing Wildflowers. And it is challenging, it is humbling in every way, and it's constant learning. It requires a lot of listening. It requires patience and love to the maximum, because when many times when I return to Sierra Leone, and because of, as you have pointed, I have been put on a different path, and I have been spared something that would have made me a survivor of the practice. I feel I'm a survivor of the psychological effect of the fear that is associated with the certainty of this initiation, which is required by from most girls and sometimes women in Sierra Leone. But being able to go back and not and go to all the as they say, we say in Sierra Leone, upcountry. So you go to all the villages and the rural areas where we have projects, and where I try to bring in from different international organizations projects to help at the local level. Most women whom I work with, and who are the keepers of the tradition and who protect the practice, because that is their livelihood. We understand that. They that is what they have learned, and that is how they support their family, by doing and promoting the tradition and being the cutters. I'm referring to the sewers, which are the women who do the cutting. We don't go and demand that they drop the knife. We go and help train them so they have another vocation and maintain the position in the society that they have fought so hard to be able to have. It is a very delicate way that we are trying to create new programs. And this comes from the grassroots, meaning that I don't sit in my home in Los Angeles and come up with great ideas and then go and try to implement it doing social engineering. We actually go and we communicate, we ask questions, we work with the traditional leaders, with the paramount chiefs, with the religious leaders, with the men, most important, with the men and the boys in the community, because we're trying to break the silence that this is not a woman issue. This is a human rights violation that affects everybody in the family. We do intergenerational talks. It is really hard. I mean, I have some amazing, fantastic partners. One of them, you might remember towards the ending of the book, we call ourselves FGM twins, because at the same time when I was able to escape, she actually did have to undergo FGM. So we have different perspectives. She's on the ground and I am somewhere else. I bring the funding. I raise awareness. I speak through different organizations. I'm here telling people about something that's so very unique and that continues to happen through today. We have collaborated for over 12 and a half years now, and it has been very successful. And yes, sometimes we take one step forward and 15 steps back, but we are understanding and we are making progress, and we work through the basis of love and understanding. It's not just words. It's the only thing, because when I go to Sierra Leone, I do not stay isolated. I go in the area where other people say, oh, it's so dangerous, don't go. And yet I always come back. And I'm very grateful. Also, of course, you know that my partner, Anand, he has been with me. He has been very supportive. He has, and having the support and the understanding of men, it's very important in this work.
Absolutely. You know, I want to double back on this term wildflower, the title of your book, and also the your organization servicing wildflowers. Can you tell us what these words mean to you?
Wildflower is, it came to me while I was in Egypt. And at that time, 1999, it was 8 years after my grand escape, during which time I probably found the best way to deal with the trauma is by ignoring it and pretending it just never happened. And I was visiting the Saint Maria Church, which is in old Coptic Cairo. And I just knew I had to embrace and tell my story. And it was it was very difficult to put on paper something that was only somewhere hidden in my mind. And that is the time when I turned around and I decided to study for the master's and then the PhD, specifically the political implications of the cultural practice that's internationally known as FGM, which is from the international perspective, it's called world polity. That is the international laws that are made by the United Nations to respect human rights, and how exactly you look at the chain and how exactly are they respected and what happens at the local level. So, which meant that I had to do a lot of interviews, and it was a qualitative study, which meant I had to go through rural areas and sit face to face and ask the tough questions. And I felt that by listening to what it meant to people, to women whom I refer to as wildflowers, beautiful just naturally and just the way we are, made by God, without any need for any kind of alterations. it
Got
was
it. Got
it
it.
got the inspiration to be able to do the work and the
Yes.
strength.
Oh, thank you. That's great. So now you ended up in Los Angeles, and this is where you did your graduate study, isn't that right?
Yes, I attended, I went through all the system from Los Angeles City College, which was my first love. And then I
Mm.
went to Cal State Los Angeles, Cal State LA, and I did my PhD and taught at UC Irvine.
Oh,
And
wonderful. And what was your PhD was, is it in the field of sociology? Is
political
it
sociology.
political
Yes.
sociology? And now you do work with the United Nations and also with an organization that not everybody may have heard of, but it's very powerful around the world, the Soro Optimists. Can you in a few words tell us what is a Soro Optimist, and tell us also about your United Nations work? So
Yes.
this is where your work as an advocate is, let me put it this way. You do on the ground work as an advocate in Sierra Leone, and as well, you're an international voice in these different ways. So just give us a little sketch of what that work is all about.
Yes, I am a very proud Soroptimist. Soroptimist International, it's an international organization of volunteer women, and it stands for Women at Our Best who wants to help other women become their best. We have
Mm.
educational programs like Live Your Dream program and Dream It Be It. And we always sponsor girls through education. At
Okay.
the local level in California, I am currently still the chair for international advocacy. What that means is that I work hand in hand with our international director for the
Mm.
whole Soroptimist. We are over 100,000 powerful Soroptimist
Mm.
women around the world, including Romania, including Sierra Leone, including Nigeria,
Amazing.
of course, all over the US and India. And I often, when I travel, I make presentations and I connect with Soroptimists. We do different projects. And I just want to illustrate how the journey started about 12 years ago when I was
Mm.
invited to be a speaker for Soroptimists, the way I was invited to be a speaker at the African Christian Fellowship. And I
At St.
was so
James.
impressed
Yeah.
with their work, and I connected with some of the leadership. And back then, in 2009, the president of Soroptimist International of the Americas, she promised me that if she ever becomes the president of the Soroptimist International, meaning that all the federations all over the world, she will make FGM part of her international appeal. At that
Mm.
time, FGM was such a taboo topic, and
Mm.
nobody wanted to hear the dark sides and the effects and how real it was and how many millions of
Mm.
women are affected and girls. It was just really difficult, and everyone was like, no, 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 let's talk about something else. Let's talk about
Mhm.
education, let's talk about water, but not FGM. So I was very grateful that Soroptimist gave me a platform. And today, one of our international projects that supports, in fact, one of the activists that I am working with, and she's featured in my book, is based on female genital mutilation, and it's called the
Mm.
Soroptimist 6. So that is fantastic
Mm.
and amazing.
Mm.
And I
Mm.
do
So
work,
good.
I work closely with them through the United Nations. We do have a seat, and we are advocating for human rights for everyone, specifically for girls and women. I at the conference, the largest international conference at the
Mm.
United Nations, is coming up, usually surrounding the International Day of Women, which is March 8th. And this year, for the first time, it's going to be virtual. And I will
Now,
be
this is the
representing,
Commission on the Status of Women, right? Which
it's
is a
called the
part of the
Commission
United
on the
Nations.
Status of Women. That's the
And you,
CSW.
uh-huh.
And,
And what is your
and I
role this
rep-
year?
so this year I am part of well, for the past few years, I have been elected to be on the core group for the North America and Europe caucus. So, of
Wow.
course, I happen to always be in Los Angeles for our planning and meetings. But finally, now I am also in Europe. So it really
Yes.
has fulfilled all my roles. And I do represent all international organizations in the United States. So we have 7 members in 7 different countries between North America and Europe. And I'm very proud
Mm.
to represent the US.
Oh, that's great. And this is the first time that it will be virtual, right?
This is the first time,
Yeah.
and we have high expectations, and we worked really hard, and it has really helped me during this time to stay very active and focused on while I'm still dealing with mourning and other realities like the freezing weather. So
You've mentioned that a few times.
it's because
It's
you are in
funny, you know,
sunshine.
I
It's so
lived
hard
on
to
the East
imagine.
Coast. I know. I lived on the East Coast of the United States for, gosh, 25 years or more. And and I was sort of used to the cold, but the minute I moved to Los Angeles, I've lost my ability to be cold.
Yes.
You know, if it's 60 degrees outside, I'm in a panic because it's too cold. So
Well,
you lose it, right? Use it or lose it.
yes,
So
I came
now
from cold and I went to hot and I never adjusted again. So,
I know. I don't
yes.
think you can go back. Once your body finds out there's another way to live, it doesn't want to go back. Now, tell us a little bit about your relationship with our own African Christian Fellowship at St. James, because I think they invited you many years ago, right?
Yes. I was
What's the story
very,
there?
very, very grateful that in 2012 I was invited by my dear friends and fellow Sierra Leoneans, Mr. and Mrs. Ola Thomas.
Yes.
And at that time, Mr. Arnold Blanchard was the president, and he is still our
Hmm.
president today. And
Hmm.
I was invited to speak on the work that I was doing with some schools and women's centers in Freetown and other parts of the country. And I was very grateful because the African Christian Fellowship not only welcomed me, embraced my work, showed interest in everything that I was doing, but they also made a very generous donation towards the school back then. And I was
Mm.
invited to participate. And because my home happens to be a walking distance from
Hmm.
the St. James Church, it was wonderful. But despite the proximity, it was the warmth and the joy and the love with which not only myself, as a Romanian, Sierra Leonean, Nigerian, American, I have been embraced, but also my partner, who is originally from India. We both feel very, very welcomed. And I must
Mm.
say, I really miss our meetings.
Yes.
And that's how
And
I
you've been
started
in
the
a
journey.
leadership position as well. Haven't you been on the board of the African Christian Fellowship as well?
Yes, I have been on the board as a secretary, and I have done sometimes excellent work in the past few months. I
Mm.
am missing in action, but I miss everyone, and I
I
shall be
know.
back.
We all miss you. Everybody misses you. That's for sure. Our sort of way of talking full circle, I kind of want to go back to your relationship with your Sierra Leonean dad, right? I mean, there was the story of the escape, and I'm sure he wasn't happy that you left. But was the relationship did the relationship change more over time?
Now, that
Was
is
there a
such a beautiful,
reconciliation?
that is a very, very meaningful and beautiful question, because I must say that because I'm alone in the house that once was with my grandparents and with my mother and my brother and sister, and now I'm here by myself, it has really have given me the opportunity to reconnect, reflect. And one of the most beautiful part of this alone time of mourning, of healing, has been the meaning and the importance that my Sierra Leonean biological father has had in my life. and the power of forgiveness. And I say that because my journey with him started at the age of 11, then I moved at the age of 13, and we were intensively interacting only for about 6 years. Then I escaped, which was a very big disgrace because of his political position, his visibility, and the fact that he had spent so much energy, time, money to get his so-called white child to come and move to Sierra Leone. I felt that I used my time and my freedom wisely by educating myself in the US. And it's not about the degrees, which of course they help, but it is about the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding, as well as curiosity, that the constant studying and interaction with the very people that could have been the ones who, let's say, treated me in a way that was at that time unacceptable. I feel that the transformation is really worth seeing. So I did reflect on that, and I took that journey and and applied it in my personal relationship with my father. And I must say that one of my most beautiful moments in life was the reunion with him, actually in 2002, the United Nations, when he represented a delegation for the peacekeeping mission for Sierra Leone about a decade later after I left and after the war started. And I was at the time going to Cal State Los Angeles, and I was studying political science. I was very familiar with the ECOWAS peacekeeping mission. So I requested to be part of the delegation. And so our journey picked up because although he felt I disgraced him, and the family honor was on the line because I did not respect tradition, and because I was although at that time I was married, but before marriage, I had to be fixed, and I escaped that. My father seemed to be very proud of the fact that I did spend my time wisely, and specifically that I chose to study what the conditions were and traditions in Sierra Leone from the political perspective to understand it. And he closely followed my academic career as I went into the PhD. And we were in contact by email and sometimes on the phone after he returned to Sierra Leone. He did become a MP, member of parliament, so his dream did come true, even though I disgraced him, but I stayed true to and we had a really wonderful relationship. Unfortunately, he fell very ill. He was campaigning with the political party that eventually got power in 2005. Should it have continued, he had high aspirations of being the vice president of Sierra Leone, the vice president for Mr. Ernest Koroma, who is and was the cousin of my mommy, my stepmother, my father's wife. And but that did not materialize because in late August, due to very severe illness, he suddenly passed away. The most beautiful part is that the last 3 weeks of his life, I was by his side. And we had a chance to talk about everything. There is no question that I had not asked him. He didn't answer most of them. Like, for example, I asked him about the male secret society. And he, of course, didn't tell me anything because it's very secret. But he did tell me, and I had very high regrets. I was never sure because I was accused on my journey that indeed I betrayed my Black side. And I had remorse because I wanted to clarify that my escape from Sierra Leone was to evade being initiated into the secret society. It had nothing to do with my beautiful African family. And I had the fantastic opportunity and the gift of being in the same room with my father and asking him, if I did not board that flight, what would have happened to me? And my father, a very educated man, well traveled around the world, a diplomat from European countries to many West African countries, answered, I would have been killed. He told me, because the fact that I attempted escape, which shed such an awful, terrible light on our family, I now cross the bridge into what you might call in other parts of the world honor killing.
Yeah,
so
you'd be a
it is
target.
by
Yeah.
Yes, it is by the grace of God, and I carry that in my heart all the time, that I had that strength to be able to get on that flight. It wasn't easy. Like you say, I laugh about it, but it wasn't easy. I left my father kneeling down, and it took 14 years before we met again. It wasn't easy. But I'm
But
very
how
grateful.
beautiful. I know, what a grace-filled end of the story in his final weeks. That's beautiful. And here you
Yes.
are in Romania, sort of being there for family again. The other part of your family. We've talked about so many things. I had this long list, and I think we've covered it. But my question to you, Nina, before we end, is there one other thought or idea or message that you'd like to leave us with here at St. James before we end?
Yes, I would like to encourage everyone to stand in their own truth and to make peace with what it is that God has brought into one's life, and to always stand in that peace, because that way you not only stand for yourself, but you stand for others. And if by any chance you see a little red car on the streets of Los Angeles with the license plate and FGM, that is me, because I will be back. And I feel
Yes.
that we can always have a little fun and do something beautiful with joy, and always use the good health and highlight the positive, to be able to share with those we love, and to always inspire and influence others, because we are all God's children. And more than ever, this is the time for us to encourage each other.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I can't wait to sit down with you over an amazing Nigerian, Sierra Leonean, African Christian fellowship feast later this
Yes.
year. And I want to thank you for spending time with us today, all the way from Romania. God bless you, Dr. Nina
Thank
Smart.
you.
You are a wonder.
Thank you so much for having me over. And thank you for all your excellent questions, your friendship and your sensitivity, and everything that you have shared with us that I have heard while visiting the church has also impacted me. So I'm very, very grateful. And I love everyone from the African Christian Fellowship. I miss everybody.
I know, and everybody misses you, and I want everyone to stay safe. And we're going to be all back together sometime this year, and I can't wait. Bye for now. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.